Welcome to the SBI Podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Welcome, SBI Podcast listeners and video podcast viewers. My name is Dan Perry, and this is Eric Estrella, and we are with SBI, a sales and marketing consultancy dedicated to helping you make your number. On this web TV show and audio podcast, we will feature topics and tutorials that will help you make your number. By tuning in, you can leverage emerging best practices and receive how-to instruction on some of the most prevalent go-to-market problems that exist in today's complex selling world.
Yep, thanks, Dan. So do you ever wonder why some companies make their number every year, right? And some struggle with consistent performance? Companies come to us every day to ask for help to get more consistency in making their number. But most don't even know where to start. And it really starts with strategic alignment. So first, let's actually define strategic alignment. Dan, if you can take that, please.
Yeah, sure, Eric. So strategic alignment begins with a clear understanding of the corporate strategy, followed by a grasp of the interdependencies among the various functional strategies. So to truly be strategically aligned, you must link these internal strategies with external market conditions. And Eric, it's been proven difficult to do. SBI's found that 91% of companies are misaligned. And the main reason is the realization that companies have tactics masquerading as strategy. This results in a lot of waste, or as we define it as thrashing. Tons of work with little productivity gains. So today, we are going to understand how to develop an A-player profile for a sales professional. Developing this profile is a direct result of aligning your talent strategy with your corporate, product, marketing, and sales strategies. Simply put, you cannot construct an A-player profile for a sales professional if you don't have strategic alignment through the corporate or other functional strategies.
Yeah, you're correct, Dan. So building on an A-player profile will allow you to complete your talent strategy. It's really the foundation of how you assess, source, hire, onboard, develop, and create a succession plan for the organization. Again, the strategy or the framework for the strategy. And without it, the entire strategy will collapse.
So Eric, to do this, we're going to use SBI's Revenue Growth Strategy Workbook titled How to Make Your Number in 2016. And we're going to focus on pages 198 to 201 in their report if you want to follow along at home. Now, if you want a copy of this workbook, you need to go to www.salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-report. And if you want to have someone from SBI teach you how to use it, please sign up for our workshop at www.salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-workshop. Remember, it's -report for the report and -workshop for the workshop. So let's first show and briefly define our talent strategy methodology. This 7-step methodology begins with our topic today, profiles. This is developing the profile for an A player in each key revenue growth role. We will go deep on this first step. Next is assessments. Briefly put, this is assessing each member of the corporate, product, marketing, and sales teams against their profile to identify talent strengths and gaps.
So the third is sourcing. Proactively sourcing talent capable of filling current or future corporate, product, marketing, and sales positions. Fourth is hiring. This is defined as hiring top talent required to execute the corporate, product, marketing, and sales strategy. Fifth is onboarding. This is simply shortening the road to productivity by providing new product, marketing, sales leaders the necessary knowledge, skills, and behaviors to perform on the job.
Yeah, Eric, so let's keep going here, right? Sixth is the talent development. Top organizations produce an individual development plan for each member of the revenue growth team that will correct or reinforce the necessary behaviors. And finally is succession planning. This is identifying and developing candidates with the potential to fill key leadership positions in the future. So, okay, now we understand the talent strategy methodology. it is evident that developing the correct A-player profile for revenue-producing roles, especially the sales professional, is critical to success.
All right, Dan, so let's dive into the problems companies have with writing profiles and describing how to develop one. But before we do, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll teach you how to develop this A-player profile.
Sounds great.
All right.
Each day, you receive hundreds of emails, tons of text messages, countless telephone calls, and sit in too many meetings. How do you find ideas to make the number with all this noise? The SBI blog filters all this nonsense for you and presents only first-rate ideas to make the number. Simplify your life. Subscribe to one blog and read the best content. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com and subscribe today.
Welcome back. I'm Dan Perry, and this is Eric Estrella, and we are with SBI. Today, we are trying to help you make your 2016 number by defining and developing A-player profiles for sales professionals. So to follow along at home, we are inside SBI's Revenue Growth Strategy Workbook titled How to Make Your Number in 2016. If you want a copy of this workbook, go to www.salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-report. So Eric, before the break, we discussed SBI's 7-step talent strategy methodology. And we learned that the foundation of this strategy is developing an A-player profile for sales professionals. So let's dive deep in how you would develop this A-player profile. But Eric, what's the problem with developing these profiles today?
Yeah, so again, just I want to reiterate, so step one in the talent strategy framework is really developing that A-player profile. So really the problem organizations face is rarely do functions or functional leaders agree on the definition of an A-player profile. Therefore, HR tries to satisfy each open position with the unique needs of the hiring manager. This process really isn't sustainable, nor is it scalable, and leads to larger variations in performance. The first item is to clearly define what an A-player profile truly is.
You know, Eric, you're probably talking about role corruption there, right? When we're not defining the profile appropriately.
Absolutely. So, and a profile for a top performer is defined as really the job description. What is the job, right? The competencies of the role. So what do you need to be successful in the job? And accountabilities in the role. So how are you going to measure that individual?
Yeah, it's a great description, Eric. So there are 7 questions an organization must answer to develop an A-player profile. So let's describe and give comments on each one, Eric. And for those following along at home, these are on pages 200 and 201 of SBI's Revenue Growth Strategy Workbook, titled How to Make Your Number in 2016. All right?
Let's go for it.
So first question. It's pretty simple, but yet unfortunately neglected by most companies. Number 1, who is responsible for defining our hiring profiles? This question is critical for the organization to answer. That's why it's asked first. The default here is typically human resources or HR. But should HR really be responsible?
Yeah, it's a good question. Most organizations don't really know how to answer it, right? The best practice is to have HR responsible for defining the hiring profiles. But a representative from each respective function must provide the input into the profile for it to be truly developed properly. Without such functional feedback, the profile will be created in a silo by HR and probably not as accurate as it can be. This is evident when the hiring manager doesn't even have the job description and has to ask HR for it, right? And it's not really a job description, it's a profile with the competencies and the accountabilities.
You know, that's really important, the competencies and accountabilities. And Eric, too often we see HR only writing a job description and not going to, in this case, the sales department or the head of sales and asking what does it take, you know, in the competencies to be successful and what accountabilities are holding this person measurable to. So it's a big question to answer, and you got to nail this one.
And all of it has to be in the job profile, right?
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
The second question, it's a good segue, starts to develop what the profile is. So what competencies go into the hiring profile? First, can you define for us what a competency really is?
Yeah, sure can, Eric. This is pretty important here. A competency is the ability to do something effectively or efficiently. So developing competencies, also known sometimes as capabilities, are a collection of traits and characteristics the individual must have to perform the role effectively and efficiently. Choosing the correct ones is the challenge, because picking the wrong ones will cause us to hire the wrong candidate for the role. So our advice here is take your time when choosing the competencies. This requires us to match the corporate strategy with the other functional strategies. So Eric, let's give an example of this, right? If our corporate strategy is focused on customer intimacy, and our sales strategy then guides us in constructing a customer intimate sales organization, this will require our salespeople to have the competencies of customer focused and probably adaptability for two starters, right? The other contrast, though, Eric, is where if our corporate strategy is product differentiation and our sales strategy has, let's say, 100 sales positions, the competencies required are different. They're social reach, referral generation, persuasion, closing ability, just to name a few. And look at your A players as well inside your company when developing these competencies. They are the key link to creating an A player profile.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's critical we match up the competencies with the role that ties into the corporate strategy and other functional strategies, right? Only then we get the right candidate for this position. This is the most critical part of the profile, even more than the actual job description itself.
Yeah, it's pretty important there, right? And I like the fact you said it's more important than the job description itself, because the profile and accountabilities let you know, again, how to be successful in the job, as well as what I'm holding you accountable to. And that's really doing the job on an everyday basis. So it's important. All right, third question. Let's get into this one. Number 3, what accountabilities should go into our hiring profile? So accountabilities are both quantitative and qualitative. These must also tie back again into the corporate strategy and functional strategies. So for a salesperson, obviously quota attainment, right? Revenue or goal attainment is a standard measure of accountability. But again, if customer intimacy is a corporate strategy, then tying maybe a net promoter score, sometimes known as NPS, into the accountabilities would be critical in living the corporate strategy. Now, qualitative measurement goes into actions such as building a virtual bench for maybe a sales manager, everyone using the sales process on the sales manager's team, or for a sales professional, every major customer interaction has what we call a call plan. Those are some qualitative metrics.
Yep. So similar to the competencies, right? The accountabilities really need to be tied to your corporate strategy and to the functional strategies that support it, right? Because without that, the A player profile, especially the competencies and accountabilities, will be much easier to ultimately lead to the right candidate, right?
Yeah.
Hiring the right candidate.
Yeah, which is critical, right? And that goes back into setting that profile straight.
Yep.
All right, Eric, fourth question. Let's get into this one, all right? What is the compensation that we are willing to pay for this hiring profile? Well, the old adage plays true, doesn't it, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely.
You get what you pay for. The first step is to benchmark the compensation to the role in your industry. Knowing what the top pay is for the role, typically that's like the top quartile, right? You can construct a pay plan that attracts A players to your company without breaking the bank. If you can't pay at the top levels, you can then add maybe some non-compensation benefits to your pay plan. This can include things like development programs, succession plans, learning and development classes, unlimited vacation. There's all kinds of ways you can compensate other than cash. But cash comp is important, but it's not the most important thing. So by developing the comp plan to the corporate strategy and functional strategies, you can create a compensation plan that attracts and retains A players.
Yep. And think about it in context of the individuals that you're paying to, right? So you can construct a comp plan based on the generation you're hiring. So you pay millennials different than you would baby boomers, right? They care about different things. So Dan, you've done some studying about creating comp plans for each of the generations. Can you do us a favor and give us some insight there?
Yeah, sure. I studied this, and it's ever changing, you can imagine, right? And we could spend a whole lot of time discussing the different generations and what attracts them. But I'm just going to pick one generation. Let's look at the millennials for now. So millennials, typically 18 to 32, they want three main things when they're looking for a job search and compensation plan. So number one, they want unlimited compensation, but Eric, who doesn't, right? But what they want is a more variable compensation and less fixed compensation. More risk, more reward. That's what they want. Work-life intersection is another example. And this is described as working and non-working activities blended together. Now, this is different than even my generation when we had a work-life balance. So let me give you an explanation of this.
Please.
So typical millennial, might work from 6 a.m. to 8:30 in the morning. They then would go to the gym and work out from 8:30 to 9:30. They would return to work, maybe work till noon, 1 o'clock, go out to lunch with some friends or a significant other, come back, maybe work till about 4 o'clock, and believe it or not, then take a break and watch maybe a rerun of Grey's Anatomy on Netflix, right? Kind of crazy about what I think about, but that's normal for them. And then maybe return back to work from 6 to 7:30, 8 o'clock. So they're blending work and life together versus trying to get a work-life balance. If you're hiring a millennial, that's important to realize that, and if you can, construct the job around that. Third thing they want, career path. Tell me where I'm going and how long it is to get there. Now remember, the millennials will probably have somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 jobs in their lifetime. So they want career progression, and they want to have a date when this will happen.
Good stuff, Dan. So it's actually excellent context as it relates to the generational pieces there. Let's dive into the fifth question. How do we make our profile something candidates and existing employees can be scored against? This is about the development of a scorecard. The scorecard mirrors the profile. When the employee is assessed on a regular basis, the scorecard is completed, which has in it how they perform on the competencies as well as the accountabilities. And if you remember, the competencies are what makes them successful in their job, right? What do they need to have in order for them to be successful? And accountabilities are really what are they measured against? So it's fairly obvious that those would go into a scorecard, right? Best practice is assessment should be conducted twice a year and accountability is measured every month, specifically in a sales role, with the quarterly scorecard completion. This can be then used in developing and refining an individual development plan.
So we'll get into individual development plans in a minute there, but that's a great explanation of how the profile extends across the entire 7-step talent methodology. So Eric, time for another quick short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side of this break, we're going to answer questions 6 and 7, and then tie it all up with what the next steps will be in developing the A-player profile.
You are watching SBI TV. This is a monthly web TV show featuring guests just like you, executives trying to grow their revenues. Each month, you can peek behind the scenes and watch your peers discuss their strategies for how they make their numbers. You are not going to want to miss this.
Welcome back. I'm Dan Perry, and this is Eric Estrella, and we are with SBI. Today, we are trying to help you make your 2016 number by defining how to develop an A-player profile. There are 7 questions leaders must answer to develop an A-player profile for a sales professional. We've answered 5 so far. So Eric, let's complete the last 2.
Yep. So Dan, before we do, if you're following along at home, want to reference our SBI's revenue growth strategy workbook titled How to Make Your Number in 2016. If you want a copy of this workbook, go to www.salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-report.
Thanks, Eric. All right, question 6. How many unique profiles can we sustain across the enterprise? The answer to this question will determine how you develop A-player profiles for the ones you actually need. Too many unique profiles leads to little consistency, and it really doesn't tie in typically to the corporate and functional strategies. Yet too little, and you are trying to fit a certain role into another. This will lead to role corruption and, again, misalignment to the corporate and functional strategies.
Correct, Dan. So how do you ensure there's too many or not enough? Is by really listening through to the market via market research and keeping strategies front and center in your organizational development. When developing profiles, always ask the questions. Will the customer pay for this expertise? Does this position help us fulfill the corporate and functional strategies that are aligned?
Yeah, and I just want to add, Eric, to that is that the market research must be done on a consistent basis. So it's not a one and done thing, right?
It's a constant ear to the market.
Yeah, you really need to pay attention to that and change the profile as the market evolves, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the final question. Number 7. How will we market our hiring profile to the outside world with a job description?
So this goes into the understanding the market and the competition for an A-player candidate. By positioning the profile properly, you can create value for the job. This is essentially marketing the profile, right? And using a marketing framework that attracts A-player candidates to your role ties directly into the third step in our 7-step talent methodology, sourcing, right? So if you think about it, this, Dan, right? So you use marketing to attract talent, to create demand gen, to attract prospects and customers. So you would use that same tool, methodology, to attract A-player candidates into your organization as well.
Yeah, marketing has to be involved now in sourcing more than ever before because it's hard to compete to hire these best candidates or A-player candidates, right? And this really goes into a change in the way organizations are recruiting. But again, without this A-player profile and this consistency in that profile, you can't recruit because you don't know what you're looking for, right? Yep. So it's pretty important. So the best way to understand how to market the hiring profile is to conduct research with your current people and industry peers. Learn from them what attracts A-player candidates to the role and bake that into your sourcing marketing.
All right, so again, how do we do this? For our audience, let's recap the 7 questions you should be solving for when creating an A-player profile for a sales rep and assistants. Number 1, who is responsible for defining our hiring profiles? Number 2, what competencies go into our hiring profiles? Number 3, what accountabilities should go into our hiring profiles? Number 4, what is the compensation that we are willing to pay for this A-player profile? Number 5, how do we make our profile something candidates and existing employees can be scored against? Number 6, how many different and unique profiles can we sustain across the enterprise? Question number 7, how will we market our hiring profile to the outside world with a job description?
Yeah, Eric. Answering those 7 questions is critical to success. And our advice is you don't start to develop an A-player profile without going through those 7 questions. I think it's critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, Eric, we're out of time today. But we had great discussion around the core questions you need to answer to develop a successful sales profile. This ties back into strategic alignment. The profiles need to match the corporate strategy to be in this alignment. Development of it should have the corporate strategy always in the forefront. Now, if you're interested in learning more about strategic alignment and how it helps you develop A-player talent, you can sign up for a workshop at www.salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-workshop. So we'd like to thank our viewers, for tuning in. If you enjoyed this show, I suggest you subscribe to SBI TV at salesbenchmarkindex.com/TV, or you can find us at our SBI YouTube channel. We have some outstanding content coming in future episodes that you will not want to miss. So until then, Eric and I wish you the best of luck as you try to make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.